Hi, this is your host Sapni Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of Dear Friend Let's Talk. And today we have two guests, Catherine McGarvey, Vice President of Software Engineering at VMware, and Chris Clark, Program Manager at the Cloud Foundry Foundation. Catherine, Chris, it's great to have you both on the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great to be here.
Yeah, and today we are going to talk about, Catherine, you joining the Cloud Foundry Foundation's governing board. Um, Before we get started about why you joined the board and everything else, I want to quickly talk about, because Cloud Foundry has gone through a lot of kind of transitions. The market is changing. If you folks can quickly talk about where do you see Cloud Foundry in today's world?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things that made Cloud Foundry so successful and having such an impact in the open source community is its real desire to think about developer needs and put developers first. And I think that understanding is still really relevant today. If we think about new abstractions like Kubernetes, where the concept of a blue-green deploy doesn't exist natively. You have to build those layers on top. And so I think for the Cloud Foundry community, one of the strong interests that still needs to be served is how developers operate in that world. And with the existing community and the existing foundation on VMs, there's a strong understanding of that. We still want to bring that same level of understanding elsewhere. We want to bring that to Kubernetes, and the Carifi effort is really sort of going about that. We also want to understand that developers don't care where their software is running as long as it's running well. So there's still a strong need for serving that on the VM base as well.
Perfect, thanks. Chris, I would love to hear your opinion on that as well.
Yeah, that was a great synopsis. I think all the same value propositions that Cloud Foundry's had are still applicable today. Kubernetes is a fantastic, powerful tool, and it's changed the entire ecosystem. But there are still there's a lot of work to do on day two in Kubernetes, and Cloud Foundry had already solved a lot of those problems. So we'll see what comes in the years ahead. I do think Carifi, the new Cloud Foundry platform, it's more Kubernetes native, a little lighter footprint. That could be a player in that, and that could help a lot of folks kind of deal with these complicated day two questions in Kubernetes.
Right, and I talked to a lot of folks who have been in the Cloud Foundry space for a very long time, and also Kubernetes. Everybody is, but with Kubernetes, what is happening is that everybody is looking at it, and it's more or less like, yeah, they are trying. Sometimes there are genuine reasons where they want to move to Kubernetes, and sometimes they are like, hey, everybody is moving there, so we should also explore there. And a lot of problems that the community is trying to solve. Cloud Foundry, you folks, kind of, or even IBM mainframe, or open mainframe project, once again, Linux Foundation projects there, they solve a lot of problems there too. So do you also see, because there are a lot of customers, users who are on classic Cloud Foundry, and they are either trying to move to Kubernetes or they're exploring, and then they are going through those hoops. So what are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think if you're coming from a Cloud Foundry background and you're moving to Kubernetes, the first thing you notice is the gaps and the extra things you have to provide. Like we talked just about blue-green deployment, but secrets management, that whole sort of enhanced security posture that you get with Cloud Foundry sort of is missing as you go to Kubernetes. And there's a lot more vendors in this space as well. So I think as customers and the community members are looking at Kubernetes, there's a real interest in how does this actually help move things forward? Maybe there's a lot of workloads that aren't cloud native that are also being interested in moving to Kubernetes, which is where I think that you get the bigger value of that shift, because you don't have to sort of think about them through one lens anymore. You can think about them holistically as different types of workloads. So I think if you're expecting the same level of experience out of the gate, you're going to be sadly disappointed. So I think being open to what is the actual problems you're trying to solve as you look at Kubernetes, I think is the best way to go about approaching it from additional workload support.
Chris, do you have anything to add to that? Because you, as part of Cloud Foundry Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, Kubernetes has got a lot of momentum, and a lot of people have. There's a lot of talk about moving to Kubernetes in a lot of large enterprises, and I think lots of them are. I think, for my understandings from VMware and SAP and some of the other Cloud Foundry vendors, is that the big Cloud Foundry end users have been a lot slower to move away than we might have feared. So still have a ton of people using Cloud Foundry on VMs, and hopefully Karifi, the new lighter weight implementation, will provide an option for those customers, A, wanting to move towards Kubernetes, and B, in the Kubernetes ecosystem, perhaps attracting some new customers as well.
When we look at Cloud Foundry, is it a technology, and this can be a very blunt question, but we can deal with it the way you want. Do we look at this technology which is on its way out, or if you look at even today's word COBOL, mainframe is actually powering every time you go to transaction, people don't realize it. A lot of technologies folks have written off, but they are still there. It's just like it's not the shiny object in today's world. So when we look at Cloud Foundry, is it going to be the same technology? It will be there for a long time to come. A lot of folks have invested in it. So if you can talk about that also.
Yeah, I think VMware is definitely taking that lens. It's a long-term investment. It's a long-term play. We are seeing still customers increasing their usage on the commercial side. This is not something that's disappearing. And so from an investment into the community, that's still a long-term lens of an underpinning of solving a particular need really well, that we believe still continues to be the case today.
Perfect. Now, Catherine, if I ask you, why you decided to join the governing board, what drove you towards that?
Yeah, I've been super fortunate to be in and around the community since actually around 2015. So supporting a lot on the commercial side, and that sort of understanding. The more you support commercially, the more you understand what's going on in the open source and sort of seeing the improvement there. And one of the things that was really fascinating on the commercial side was how much customers really cared about being able to see the changes. And even if they weren't committing to the open source repos, of understanding the code that way. And so there was this real strong sense that the community was serving so much of non-contributors just by being open and just making that evolution happen. And through those engagements, great things happened with, say, some security postures as well into the open source piece. But I've always loved it because it was solving a real need and solving it for real customers. And that's why sort of my interest has always been. And so the last several years, I've been overseeing the team that's doing all of that investment. So it kind of felt like a wonderful opportunity for me.
Right. And VMware, you folks, are involved with the Cloud Foundry. So I'm pretty sure that, in some ways you were dipping your toes in there. But how actively will you be, or what will be your role at CFF, as part of the governing board?
Yeah, well, I'm still sort of getting across things. So maybe that's still TBD as I sort of learn and engage in the group. But Chris has been really helpful there. I don't know, Chris, if you want to share anything on that front.
Well, we've got our first board meeting since Catherine joined coming up in September. So I think that should all become a lot more clear then. But it certainly, on behalf of the CFF, I can say we're very happy to have her join. Her technical background and long history at Pivotal working on Cloud Foundry should provide some welcome leadership. So very happy to have her join.
Right. And if you look at Cloud Foundry Foundation, of course, there's a community, there is a project, there's foundation. What are your immediate concerns that, as we talked about, there are a lot of, users who are on classic Cloud Foundry. Sometimes we try to, talk to a lot of, folks, vendors who operate in Cloud Foundry to address those fears that, hey, you don't have to fear. It's not that the vendors or ecosystem will disappear. So what are the things that you are either concerned about, or you want to reassure the user community that, hey, we are here, to help you folks? Just give us an update on the project.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been trying to be very explicit, and especially with the larger vendors, that Cloud Foundry on VMs isn't going anywhere. That VMware and SAP, IBM as well, still have a lot of large customers that need to be supported, and all of those companies have explicitly stated that they're going to continue to support that for years to come. Not just the next couple. So hopefully that's allayed any fears folks might have had on that. At the same time, we're trying to look beyond that, just more into the future, and see where Cloud Foundry fits into more Kubernetes native ecosystem. And I hopefully our latest project will solve for that. Yeah, we're looking forward to demoing that. We'll be at KubeCon actually with our first in-person event in 3 years coming up. In October 25th, we'll have a Cloud Foundry Day. And so that will be really trying to showcase Karifi and Paketo build packs as well to the wider CNCF community. So trying to, move that forward there, and hopefully, get some traction in the Kube community.
Catherine, do you want to add anything there to reassure the user community?
Yeah, I think one other piece that I was really grateful to see those recent governance changes just with how each of the groups work. And that sort of made it simpler for if you're getting started or you want to make a change and you're not sure who to reach out to. I think in the past we relied a little bit on knowing who's who and being in the community for a while. And these governance changes make that a little simpler. So it is easier to make changes, is easier to engage. But we VMware are very committed to this community. We're not stepping away. We're continuing to invest. We have a lot of learnings from this work too that continue to be really helpful as we look at our Kubernetes path as well. And so interested to hear feedback as we go to KubeCon. We're going to be sort of very visible there. So that'll be a really good way to sort of hear and see just how that's being received as well.
So yeah, in October 25th, which is the day before the main event at KubeCon, we're going to be holding Cloud Foundry Day. That'll be our first in-person event since before the pandemic. So really looking forward to getting the community back together for a day of all things Cloud Foundry. And then we'll be on the floor at KubeCon. We'll be sponsoring the event. We'll have a booth where we'll be promoting Karifi and Paketo build packs primarily, but to try and get the word out on both of those. And so we've got a few sponsors for that already. It hasn't been finalized yet, so we won't announce that yet. But I'm really excited to do this. I think we're all a little bit tired of virtual events, and really happy to go see everyone in person again.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to these physical events as well.
Yeah.
Catherine, Chris, thank you so much for taking time today and talk about Cloud Foundry and of course, the role that VMware is playing in this big ecosystem. And I look forward to talk to you folks soon again at VMware Explore and at KubeCon. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Swapnil.
All right. Thanks, Bob.